Facebook thing, we have more security stuff to talk about. There's actually a ton of stuff to talk about. Jason Heiner is here. We've got, of course, Greg Farrow here and the wonderful Georgia Dow. And Georgia, I think you'd be proud of me. Maybe not. Last night, I finally had it. I read the story. By the way, we've reported on this. We've been reporting on this for over a year. Facebook, I've told people for more than a year, don't do Facebook quizzes because Facebook allows a quiz designer not only to get all the information about you because you took the quiz, but, and this is incredibly infuriating, they also allow the quiz designer to get information about your friends. Facebook says, well, wait a minute. No, we only allow that to improve. Let me see if I can find the stupid quote. We're only allowing collection of friends' data to improve user experience in the app. It can't be sold or used for advertising, except that's exactly what Cambridge Analytica did. And now we know for a fact, even though we've known this for a while, we now have a whistleblower who has told the story of how Cambridge Analytica basically stole 50 million Facebook profiles, got all the information they need. Cambridge Analytica is owned by the Robert Mercer family and was run at the time by Steve Bannon. And, of course, the information was intended to be used by Trump during the campaign. Although I don't blame Cambridge Analytica as much as I blame Facebook for even allowing this to happen. And you probably could say that other campaigns had done the same thing. The whistleblower said that they, since early 2014, they'd built a system that would profile U.S. voters in order to target them with personalized political advertisements. We exploited Facebook to harvest millions of people's profiles and built models to exploit what we knew about them and target their inner demons. This was the basis the entire company was built on.
You know, it's funny because Dan Patterson, who writes for me, was on this story in August of 2016. He was one of the first to write about this. And he was on it from when Ted Cruz's campaign were using Cambridge Analytica. And he was saying that there's just something fishy about this and it doesn't smell right. And it's amazing that we just didn't pay attention, that enough people did not pay attention to this, right?
I was up in Orange a year ago. The Observer, which broke this story, saw the documents, and this was confirmed by a Facebook statement that said that by late 2015, Facebook knew that this information had been harvested on an unprecedented scale. It did not alert users. It took only limited steps to recover and secure the private information. And in fact, this really frustrates me. When Facebook was told by the Observer that we have this information, we're going to go live with a story tomorrow, then and only then they kicked Cambridge Analytica off the platform.
Yep. Yeah. They knew. They knew
for years.
And really did nothing. It was completely a cover-up of all of everything that was happening to that. And the thing is that no company can police itself. We need to have legislation that's in place. I'm sorry. Yes, legislation, government, I hear you. But no one can police themselves.
The problem is, I agree with you 100%, Georgia, but Facebook's a black box to Congress and to regulators.
It can't be, right? Like, it can't be.
How do you get that information if they don't want to give it?
Well, if they want to operate in the United States, they're going to have to be able to let people know how something's run. What is the information going to be used for? There EULAs have to be something that's readable to everyone that's going to be able to deal with it. And we have to reinstate educating people that work in the government about technology, which, we've ended up defunding.
So why doesn't Facebook just relocate to the Philippines? They're already in tight with the Philippine president. We've already seen accusations leveled at Facebook saying that they are actively supporting the regime of Duterte over there, who's
horrible.
Quite, I don't want to get too carried away, but carrying out terrible things against the citizens. So Facebook could just up from Silicon Valley and relocate to the Philippines and continue on, and the U.S. government has effectively zero control, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like, the thing is, there are 3 companies right now that are disrupting markets, that are turning society upside down in so many ways. And it's because they are 5 to 10 years ahead of everybody else on data. And they know more about us than we know about ourselves. And they're using that data to monetize the living crap, out of everything that they have. And they are incented to keep that as private and as proprietary as possible, because it's a gold mine, right? It's an absolute gold mine. And
they're
obviously,
incentive to keep it to themselves, because if they give it away, they lose control. Somebody else can monetize. So the thing here is that I bet, I'm willing to bet a substantial sum of money that the executives inside of Facebook are mega pissed that someone else is making money from their data. Right?
That's the problem with Cambridge Analytica.
They're not making that much.
You're supposed to buy that from us. What do you get?
Exactly.
And the thing that frustrates me is I don't take Facebook quizzes because I know that gives them your information. That's, you see these quizzes. Which Game of Thrones character are you? Are you smarter than a 5th grader? How's your spelling? And I see so many people on my timeline saying, see how smart I am? I'm in the 99th percentile in spelling. I'm saying, you're not smart. You're a moron. You just took that quiz. That was a dopey quiz. That was made-up quiz. They just wanted your personal information. But what really frosts me is I don't take the quiz. Doesn't matter. My friends did. They got my information. And that's infuriating.
It's true. It was like 270,000 people downloaded the app, and 500 million people's information is out there.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount of people that did not do it. And you're still, because you're part of the ecosystem, in the end, the only thing that matters to Facebook is if you delete Facebook and ask them to delete all the data that they have on you, because they're going to keep it anyways. And in the end, the amount of media literacy that we teach to our children and to ourselves, like we are so easily sucked into these applications for internet points that it's pretty sad.
The good news is, thanks to the EU and the GDPR, Facebook now has a way to actually permanently delete your information. In the past, when you got off of Facebook, they would deactivate your account for 6 months, hoping that you would at some point accidentally log in and they go, oh, welcome back. By the way, when you leave Facebook, I should have done this on the air because it's hysterical. They put pictures of all your friends and they look sad and they say, it literally said, Georgia Dow is so sorry you're leaving Facebook. Do you want to send her a note telling her why? It's the most offensive
emotional blackmail.
OMG. So now you can do a complete delete of your Facebook data. And I really think this is because coming in May, they were going to get in trouble with the EU if they didn't offer this. So it's not just deactivating. It does still take 2 weeks. So last night, and I see here Facebook saying it'll take 90 days to delete all the things you've posted. Well, we'll see. Why would it take 90 days? Aren't computers a little faster?
Because
they're hoping you're going to come back.
Right.
Caches.
It's not just the data that's in the primary system, but to do a complete deletion, you have to reach into all of the backups.
Well, I hope they do
and
this.
delete that as well.
Anyway, I said this is it. The only way to really punish Facebook, yes, they should be regulated. Yes, Mark Warner's honest ads bill should go through, and that should require that, just as on radio and TV, political ads have to be identified. You have to say this ad was paid for by so and so. That's not a requirement in digital advertising. It should be. That I hope happens, but it's still not going to. You don't we know Mark Zuckerberg well enough by now? That's not going to stop.
Are we ever going to see an adult in charge of these companies, like an absolute grown-up, instead of these overblown teenagers that actually sort of
grown-ups really better?
He's a grown-up. He's maximizing revenue. This is a grown-up who has become one of the richest men in the world. That's a grown-up.
Grown-ups are no better. Grown-ups are no better. In the end, any of these companies, all they want to do is make money. And I get it. But we have to make sure that we. I don't even
blame Facebook or the engineers. They're doing what This is capitalism. They're doing what they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to do: maximize profit. They're supposed to do it legally. Okay, honestly, that's probably not right, but they're not completely legal. But they're trying their best to be sort of quasi legal, but they're maximizing profit. That's fine. So instead of saying let's regulate them, I'm going to vote with my feet. And by the way, this is not the first time I've quit Facebook, but this is the last time. I'm never going back.
I'm going to remember, Leo.
No, I'm
never
going to
remember. When you go back to Facebook, I'm going to be like,
I don't think I'm alone in this. We learned Facebook even said that 2 million fewer users under 18 in the past year. I think this is the beginning of an exodus, and I really believe this might be the final straw for a lot of users.
I don't know, but the thing is, the story is the data. The data is the story, right? It's not, Cambridge Analytica is not making that much money. They were able to do this because of what Facebook has and the data that they have. And that data is a gold mine. Data is the new oil. Data is where the money is. And like I said, there's 3 companies that are so far ahead of everybody else. Google, Amazon, and Facebook.
They have Alibaba. So much. No, there's a bunch of others. Tencent, Alibaba. You're forgetting the rest of the world.
Get ready. There's going to be a million. WeChat. There's going to be a million.
Are amazing, and they're ahead. But in terms of global reach, right? They're still so focused on the Chinese market that they will eventually be global companies, but they aren't currently. But those 3 companies are and because they're in they have very, very close relationships with their government, they're a bit protected for the moment. But those 3 companies that I mentioned, they have really been able to run roughshod over the entire globe, with the exception of the EU, and basically be able to do whatever they want with all this data and have no transparency about what they're doing. And that's the problem. Cambridge Analytica, is just like a gnat that was able to use this platform to siphon a little bit off, right? The real problem, the real issue is the data and the fact that we have no regulation about it. And we're getting later and later in the game. And the EU and GDPR is making a difference, because these companies, as well as a lot of others, they essentially are making that their baseline. If they're going to have to do that there, then, in Europe to be in that market, then it is having an effect on what they're doing in other markets as well, because it's just less expensive for them to get back to fiduciary responsibility. But, we still have this huge problem that we just haven't woken up to the fact that, that data is the new oil, and we can't let it be the wild, wild west.
Yeah. And even if they're operating somewhere else, if you put legislation in place that if you're operating here as well, which they want to, and the States is a huge area for them, so then they'll end up falling into line. And we need to, in the end, what we need, though, is media literacy. We need to teach our kids how to deal with social media, what's happening with it, and why. And I think that, old data is worth nothing. And old is a really short period of time when we talk about the technological age. So if there's an exodus from Facebook, which, I don't use Facebook, so I think that would be great. But most of the young kids, they're still using other sets of social media, and our brains are primed for wanting to get those clicks on social media. That validation is going less and less with real people and more with internet clicks. And we're primed for that.
I have to say that it's easy to leave Facebook these days because it's not that compelling, to be honest. And if you're going to leave Facebook, you should also leave Facebook's WhatsApp and Instagram as well. But I haven't left Google, and I haven't left Amazon. And that'd be a lot harder to leave Google, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
DuckDuckGo is sad. DuckDuckGo, I use it. It's sad. I'm just going to say it.
It's hard.
It's sad.
And I would have to give up Gmail. I would have to give up a lot of things. I actually did move my main mail account off Gmail. I used to use Gmail. I don't anymore. But it's a lot harder. It's easy to leave Facebook. So I'm putting a stake in the sand here, but I admit it's challenging. And I still buy a ton of stuff from Amazon. And Amazon arguably has more real data on me than Facebook did, because they know everything I purchase. They have microphones in my house.
Yeah, but Amazon, I think that's the elephant in the room here is the political angle, and we haven't touched on that. The simple fact is that the data that Facebook let their partners, because these were signed up, legally obligated partners who promised not to steal the data, but they stole the data anyway, highlights the fact that Facebook has very little control over its data, had very little, and even now has.
I agree.
once you're a Facebook employee, you can basically do anything you like. And the only reason we haven't seen more of this is just sheer blind luck.
Facebook seems to me to be more blatant than any other of these other companies.
It's stupid. It is the most stupid technology company. Google is not being caught up in politics. Amazon is not being caught up in politics. Facebook consistently makes horrendous, unforced errors in the face of every political situation. So every time something comes out about Russia, Facebook says, no, not us, not us. And then somebody comes up with the evidence and say, oh, yeah, you got us. And then it goes through again. And
so
then,
frustrating.
Yeah, right?
So Greg, you're saying that them asking for all the information to be destroyed wasn't enough for them to do? Because they just asked and then they were okay with it. They said that they did.
There's nothing they can do. All they can do is legally say, you have to agree and sign an agreement. And if they find out later on, then they can sue, blah, 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 blah. But the horse has got the gate's open, the horse is gone. But the real issue here is that Cambridge Analytica was a UK company funded by alt-right, run by Steve Bannon, which is in Trump's government. The whole alt-right got involved in the Brexit thing here in the UK. We've now got the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK announcing that they will open an investigation into this whole issue. So Facebook is now under fire. You're talking about the right wing of the American government is now looking at Facebook going, are you with us or are you against us?
Oh,
then you've got
scary.
Cambridge Analytica getting onto the right wing over here, and they're using it, and they're trying to say,
this is scary.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to create an authoritarian regime, Facebook's your best friend.
And that's exactly what they've done in the Philippines under Duterte. Same thing in Myanmar. Same thing's happening in many other countries. Facebook has been co-opted by governments, strongman governments, to control the population and to control the flow of information. And there's no reason for Facebook to stay in the US. It could just bunk out at any time, except for the fact that the US is the market which generates the most revenue for them. But they could probably just scoot off if they needed to, if they thought the pressure. And they're childish enough. I mean, your average Silicon Valley executive has the mental brain power of a 16-year-old with a lot of hormones. They're so competitive. They're so inwardly looking. They're so focused on, winning. They're not focused on the money as much as they are on the winning. They're socially incompetent to the level where I'm winning if I'm making more money.
Right.
And so they're not actually following capitalism. They're not following any rules of society. They're just trying to win blindly, aggressively, over and over and over, win, win, win. And the way that I keep score about winning is to make more money. And at some point, that's going to come off the rails because there's no more money to make, I suspect, or something else happens.
So just to play devil's advocate here, I do think that to a degree, Mark Zuckerberg's aware of the problem. And I think you've seen him the last couple of years in pretty clear some statements knowing that this thing has gotten out of control and he knows there's some serious problems. I mean, his number one, his New Year's resolution, right, for this year was fix Facebook. That's a pretty bold statement. That's basically telling everybody, including your shareholders, that something's broken and needs to be fixed.
Yeah, only after someone shoved his face right into it. He didn't work it out for himself. Somebody had to slam his face into the desk and go, look, bang, bang, bang. His head got slammed into the desk 10, 12, 14 times before he went, oh, yeah, there's a problem.
No doubt. But he did admit it. He didn't just, he wasn't just blathering on about.
He says fix it, but I'd be interested to see what he's actually doing to fix it. The latest thing is Facebook told CNN, oh, it was a rogue employee. We figured out it was a rogue employee that gave up all that information. So it wasn't our fault. My real problem is that if you're a normal person using Facebook, it's a very attractive thing. It's how you stay in touch with family and friends. You discover your high school sweetheart and what she's been up to. It's very attractive. Facebook acts as if you're giving them information, but they're keeping it private. You have control of it. You say who's a friend, who's an acquaintance, who is not to see your stuff. They really act as if you are controlling that information. They don't tell people that when you take a quiz, you're giving all your information to that company and you're giving up all your friends. I mean,
Facebook doesn't do it.
They don't tell you that.
They don't do it anymore because they realize that giving away the data meant other people were making money off Facebook's platform.
Oh, they don't do that third parties?
No, I don't think so.
They do still. You can check it on or off if you choose. But people usually don't even read that or know what they're doing. I think that, I would love to think that Zuckerberg is actually, wants to fix Facebook, because who knows what that means. But the best way to tell if someone's behavior in the future is by their behavior in the past. And they waited 2 years to be able to deal with this. They were not transparent about it. They only deleted them from their system when they found out, and the information was still there anyways. So we know that in the end, their most important thing was Facebook and keep saving face and making the most amount of money. So no, I don't think that they really want to make a difference in the world or try to do the right thing. I think that they'll only do that if they have to, or if it ends up hurting their bottom line by people deleting Facebook. And in the end, that's really, like, legislation I think is important, but I think that you're right, Leo, that, deleting Facebook is the biggest message that you could send to them. And if there's a huge exodus, they'll start to listen.
My point was that I think Zuckerberg realizes there's a problem, but at this point, I'm not sure even what he could do.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think that he cares, or does he care because it's going to hurt his bottom line economically?
No, I think he cares because of that, but he's also in Bill Gates territory,
if he cared,
right?
He'd have done something by now. He owns the company outright. He has full control. All the voting stock exists in his pocket. If he wanted to do something, it would be done. Remember what happened in 2015 when he said, you know what? Now we're going to make money. We're going to make money out of mobile ads. We're going to make money out of desktop ads. And guess how quickly they brought ads online? Yeah. 9 months before they turned loss-making to profits.
This is a much more difficult problem than making ads off of mobile, though.
No, it's a huge problem because your business model is intertwined with this lack of privacy. I mean, that's the whole business model.
What he would have to do is kind of what I'm getting to is he would have to be transparent about the way they're handling data, which is what they need to do. That's what I would recommend that they do, not because it's going to make them a lot more money. The thing is a cash cow.
It's the right thing to do.
But it's the right thing to do, and it is ultimately going to be
only the right thing to do in the U.S. Behavior. What are you going to do in the Philippines? What are you going to do in Burma? What are you going to do in Australia or China? What are you going to do is the UK?
Look what's happening in China. I mean, I really China has now said that this is so Black Mirror. I'm stunned. I didn't know this, but China has a social credit system that you can gain or lose social credit depending on how you behave. And if your social credit gets low enough, they're not going to let you on a plane or a train. You won't be able to travel.
Anti-troll. It's like the anti-troll mechanism.
Yeah.
A government branded anti-troll.
If you spread false, and this is, remember, the Chinese government is defining this. If you spread false information about terrorism, what does that mean? Maybe you say something bad about President Xi. I don't know. Cause trouble on flights. If you used an expired ticket or you smoke on a train, you can lose social credit and be banned.
Well, smoking on a train, I'm in favor of that.
I know. That one's not so bad.
You should never get
This is just part of a whole bunch of new things in China. The police are now wearing face recognition cameras. And there seems to be, I'm not really sure about this because I'm not an expert on the Chinese people, but there seems to be generalized acceptance that, well, if we have a more orderly society, it's okay if we, have a social credit ranking and we ban people with low credit from the trains. It feels very Black Mirror to me. And I really feel like if you want to watch what's really going to happen or what could happen, watch what's happening in China now. It's not human rights.
Yeah, it's different though. I mean, I think that as culturally they have such a hatred of violence and of social unrest.
They seem to be embracing it culturally.
Whereas I think you have such a different cultural mindset, in the U.S. I mean, we can't even agree to have background checks so people can't get, semi-automatic weapons to shoot,
No, we're the exact opposite,
people.
Aren't we? Actually,
right? I mean,
that's a good point. Sometimes that's not such a bad thing, freedom.
I don't know. The need to be forced into conformity can become a really dangerous thing. And if you look on Facebook or on Twitter or on Snapchat, people are trying to get as much internet credits already as they have. And if you have more followers, you're a better person than I am. And I feel
we have an unofficial social credit system, don't we?
We do, and it works
true.
really well. We are hardwired. Our brains are hardwired to want other people to validate us, to socially validate us. And we love getting treats and perks because we're a better person than someone else is. If you take a look at, I have a more expensive phone than you do. I have a better car than you do. I, have the winning team that's the one that's my team versus your team. Tribalism is strongly inclined to us, and it was one of the things that helped us survive as a people. But now it can be used against us in a way to control our behavior, and also for governments to be able to censure and sanction on people that are doing things that they don't want. It works almost implicitly, like too well. And because of that, it can be really dangerous.
Well said.
I don't know about you, but I'm terrified of people who've got guns. The idea you're worried about people not being allowed on trains because they've been bad people. I'm just terrified walking down the street in America knowing that people are allowed to have guns. Some of those people are nuts.
Do you feel? Do you actually feel when you come to the States? You live in the UK, we should say. You're Australian. Australia has a really interesting story. There was a terrible mass shooting. Was that in Tasmania, I think?
Yes, he went into a theme park fundamentally and shot up 196 people, killed them, and walked around for 8 hours killing people,
terrifying.
Hour after hour.
And the Australian government decided, that's it. We're not going to do it anymore. They changed the laws, but they also did a massive gun buyback, which was very successful. They took millions of guns out of circulation, and there hasn't been another mass shooting since.
Now, if you're an American, though,
their crime level in Australia went down starkly. They're now higher than Canada is for safety.
Isn't that interesting?
And Canada's in the top 10.
Yeah.
Now, here's what an American would say, though. That's great as long as you've got really good government that you trust.
Yeah, but I got to be honest with you.
But you can't fight the government.
I got to be honest with you.
Do you believe that you
can
could
have
fight
all
the government?
the AR-15s you want.
There's no way you could fight the government anyways.
They've got cruise missiles.
I'm just saying. This is what I'm not advocating that point of view, you guys. I'm just saying this is what Americans. This is the way Americans' mindset. That's the first place your mindset goes.
This is the way the political system's been hijacked by organizations such as the NRA to distort the debate politically, and I suspect that it's a significant amount of money. Maybe we should move the conversation on talking about how politics and money in the Broadcom versus Qualcomm discussion, Leo.
I would love to get to that. We will in just a second. That's an interesting one too. President Trump took credit for nixing that acquisition, but it turns out it wasn't. It's a part of the U.S. government that's not widely known. We'll talk about that in just a second. We had a great week this week. I hope you